My laptop is at capacity. Assign it to myself. Unable to run more than one application at a time. It's really slow opening applications. So this could be what I'm assuming here when it says my laptop is at capacity. To me, that means is it is it at capacity? Is in the sense that there's no more space left in it, which I can totally see. So for those reasons, you need to make space. Because right now what's going on is that your computer is working really hard to use the page file that is required to process any applications that you open. So what is page file? Page file is basically virtual RAM or virtual memory that's used for processing, also known as random access memory. So here is memory on my computer here, and it's 16 gigabytes. This memory is used for processing. These are chips. These are sticks of memory, and they're used for processing any software that you open up. So you see right now I have 3.8 being used out of 16. So what is that? That's all of these programs that are open. They add up to that much of RAM being used for processing. Once I run out of this, it starts to use a page file, which is virtual memory that's created on your hard drive, or also known as your storage or your C drive, which is here. If you don't have enough space here, if you're at capacity, meaning that you run out of space here, of course it's going to slow down. Right? It takes a long time to process this. And that's what I'm assuming the issue is here. So what's the solution? Well, either delete stuff to make space on your local C drive if that's the issue, or upgrade to bigger storage, or add another storage and move software to that. Because you don't have to install everything on C drive. You can install things on E drive. If you get Office or some other program, doesn't matter, video game, doesn't matter. You can install it on another drive. And for those reasons, you can, create space. So you either create space on C drive, delete things that you don't use, like downloads, this and that, temporary files. You can do that. And temp files, here we go. If you just type in temp in search, select delete temporary files, and it's going to calculate for you right here, and it'll tell you how much files can remove. And here it says temporary files 5.8 gigabytes. Right there, that's more than enough to run your page file. And then you can remove, you can uninstall apps that are not being used. So if I go to here, here's a bunch of stuff that I can delete. And of course it looks at things like recycle bin, which you should be considering first anyways. And then we got downloads here. See, it's like 500 megabytes, temporary internet files, all kinds of stuff. And once you're ready, you just select remove files. Of course you have to, if you want to delete everything out of recycle bin, you have to select that. Downloads, you have to tell it delete, and suddenly I've made 6 gigabytes of free space. Okay, now I don't know if you mean at capacity something else. Then for you to actually figure that out, go in here, go to Task Manager and see what's taking up CPU power. Right, most likely it's going to be the software that you're trying to pull up, but just in case you see something sketchy in here that you don't recognize, or sometimes it may even look like some kind of Windows process that might be slightly skewed looking, and it's suddenly taking up a lot of CPU power, then you might have a virus that's disguised as a background process. So do a virus scan just in case you're just slow, just in case your computer is simply slow, and then you have plenty of space, right? If the storage is not an issue, do a virus scan to make sure there are no viruses going on. But Task Manager is your friend. Always look at this and see what's using the most CPU power, go from there, and then from here go to the performance and see if you're running out of storage or random access memory for processing. you know. And then you can look at this here. You see how there is internet connection right here going on? That's a clear sign that there is something in the background running that's using up your power. This is bad. I don't have anything right now that I'm using. I'm not browsing anything, and yet there is internet activity, right? Or data over the network, because this could be local too. But in this case, I know it's not, right? I know it's not. This is data being sent, and you can see how much. 200, 240 being sent is really, really bad, right? Why is it really bad? Because you're sending stuff away from your computer. If this is a virus, your virus is copying things on your computer, and it's being sent to God knows where, right? This is really, really bad. What you're seeing here, this is really, really bad. This is how a really bad virus would look like. Okay, and I'm going to put this as a timestamp on the video just so you guys know. In this case, definitely run a virus scan, turn off, or first of all, unplug your computer from the internet, and then do your virus scans and this and that. And you know, there's a process on how you could remove viruses if your antivirus doesn't work and you're still having this issue. Then you might have to boot up in the safe mode and then do a virus scan from there. But generally speaking, I wouldn't personally want to use this computer if it's really bad, or to the point where you can't stop it, like it's happening right now. Then I would reimage the whole computer, right? But I would make a copy of documents that you have that you know that you need first. Well, as before you do the reimage of the computer, before you reinstall the operating system. But of course, first thing is always disconnect network cables, disconnect internet. Now I have a surprise for you. This is actually normal for me because I'm using remote desktop. Surprise! So this is normal for me because I'm using remote desktop connection, meaning that I am remoted into this computer over my local network, and it's sending data. So because, you know, so I can use remote desktop. So how do I know that this is indeed my well, I know because I've initiated. But if I click here, open resource monitor. Okay, what was my password? Resource monitor, it'll tell me what's using up my network connection. Here it is. Network down here. We can see, here it is, switch host. Here is actually switch host executable that's running in the background. Here is normal for your computer. Again, sometimes these viruses will disguise themselves as switch host, but switchhost.exe is normal, and that's because I'm using a remote desktop protocol and working off of this computer remotely. But here it is. All right. This is my network service, which is switchhost.exe. And you can occasionally see Microsoft Edge trying to do some things here. That's because we have it open right here. You see? Okay, so that goes to show that Microsoft Edge is actually also sending data back and forth. Look at that. Here is Google user content. So look at this is Google bot running Microsoft, using Microsoft Edge.exe to send some data. Look at this. Very interesting. If you want to look at the resource monitor, you can really get into the details. But mostly here, what you're seeing here is remote desktop, constantly sending back and forth data. What did I say about this one? Okay, we're going to reply. I'm going to say, I've talked to William Matthews, so William Matthews, I don't have to introduce myself again. So I'm going to say you can free up space on your C drive. I'm going to call it the C drive because sometimes I don't want to call it the hard drive because sometimes most new computers will have a solid state drive, and I want the people to know the distinction, the difference, I should say, between those two. So I'm just going to solve C drive because that's your storage, and to make sure to check Task Manager for background processes to make sure. Oh, wait a minute. I already said to make sure. Background processes to see if anything weird is using up, let's say, CPU power. You know, but watch my video just to make sure that you check all of these things. You can free up space on your C drive. Make sure to check Task Manager for background processes to see if anything weird is using up CPU power. So I would check all of these things. I would take remote control of the computer, and I would check all of these things to make sure everything is running okay. I'm going to close it because this is nothing I can do in this case. You could also route the ticket to local, like a local tech support guy who's going to have direct access to the laptop and check all of these things. Usually help this person would just kind of forward this to local tech support, whatever that may be, and they would take a look if they need to add more hard drive, add more space, this and that. But I would go through all these steps, talk to the user, make sure they understand all of these things, and then they can decide to delete things, which most likely would probably be the case, just to make some space for the page file for the processing, but then later on use some other storage means, you know, like a shared drive or even some other drive that's installed on the computer. You can have a second hard drive or solid state drive installed on your computer as well.